talking about digital ticketing, I think I mentioned this earlier. It's something that I kind of look back on and I'm like pleased it's done, but on the same token, I'm really amazed that we pulled it off, and we equated it to a heart and lung transplant for our systems, for the museum systems, because we did this without closing the museum for 3 years. And sorry, no, and it's significant, but it kind of came out of a need to change systems because our systems were too old, and I think they were moving out of business or something like that. But it also was a merging of my digital strategy and digital transformation agenda for the museum, which was to think about ways that we could really improve the visitor experience, either by addressing their pain points, or all of those kind of good things. I believe that the ticketing experience should be as invisible as possible. In the museum visit, it shouldn't be the thing that you remember. It should be the thing that kind of if it's done well, and I'm not saying that we're there by any stretch of the imagination, if it's done well, then other things take prominence in the experience. So with that said, this is our beautiful museum. I'm sure many of you have seen it. This is Central Park West. A couple of numbers. We have 5 million visitors a year come to our museum, and it is about 1.5 million square feet of public space. It is a fantastic place to go walking when it's snowing outside. It's a good 4 miles. Well, I don't know, it's like 10,000 steps. When you're in Fitbit, 5 miles. Fitbit, 10,000 steps. You can do it in our museum in the public spaces. I don't even think what else there is to say about in terms of numbers. It's big. It's 4 square city blocks. And anyway, and it's been there since 1869, which is significant because when I talk about our digital agenda, this is an historic building. So unlike contemporary art galleries, which I know nothing about, we are indeed challenged by the fact that the building is historic. The exhibits are historic. It's not just like we're presenting a current exhibit. These things have been there for more than 100 years, some of these dioramas, and that kind of thing. And so, when you start talking about digital ticketing, some really key themes before we start, and then I'll wrap this up because it'll explain why we did certain things. I'm actually not going to get as much into the architecture. Plenty of people have covered, who are more qualified than me, have covered that. We have really, really complex pricing and ticketing. This timed entry, you can choose between 1 and 6 exhibitions or no exhibitions, and all of the combinations and permutations, and then you need to choose times to go and see all of those. And then you need to find your way around. I was very, very big as part of my digital transformation agenda about multi-channel. When I say multi-channel, Allegra's going to talk this a little about more, it's really omni-channel. But the idea is that it's about the experience and not about, the fact that it's an app or it's a kiosk or it's a website. So we tend to build things, and I'm talking the collective we in the world, we tend to build things within a channel. I buy in the app, I get delivery in the app. I buy in a website, I get in delivery. And I tried to break all those barriers down. That was my main motivation here, which is this idea that I can buy in any channel and I can pick up in any channel. That makes sense to me. And in some cases, I can pick up in multiple channels because actually it's all valid until you scan the barcode and then it becomes invalid. Something I talked about this morning, this idea of a living ticket. The idea that the ticket purchase doesn't end with buying the ticket. We often, as transactional systems, just tend to think about, I bought the ticket and that's the end of the ticketing process. It's actually part of the experience and we've built it in. And I think I actually forgot to put it in this deck, but we actually extended this further into this idea that as part of our Explorer app, which we launched about 6 months ago, in the reimagined version of it, is this idea of linking the experience of getting around the museum, which we've done a lot of wayfinding in, with your ticket. So it knows where you need to be when you need to be there and gives you the information that you need at the time that you need it. So rather than working out where the space show is, it tells you that the space show is happening in 15 minutes based on your ticket, and then it gives you turn-by-turn directions to get there. That's a whole nother topic as well, interior wayfinding. And then this was another, because I'm actually not a museum person before this museum. This is my first museum, my first nonprofit, but I have 30 years of commercial experience in institutional banking systems, all technology systems, and then a whole bunch of internet companies, AOL, eBay Enterprise, those kinds of things. So this was also really important to me from an architecture point of view. It went for one single responsive set of code across all channels. So I'll show you. The idea is I don't want to be managing the same business logic in multiple channels. And so you want to do this as efficiently as possible. So let me just start with ticket purchase. So on the left was with the kiosks that we used to have, which are what in the old days used to be called green screen, even though these are colored. But really it was text and boxes. There was nothing aesthetically interesting or compelling about it, and we went for something that was much more modern and big screens and touch screens. We have about 30 of these kiosks, and we do a lot of sales on kiosks. So, but nonetheless, it is a key part of our experience, and it's a key part of our revenue model to ensure that that we offer a kiosk as a significant way of buying tickets. A couple of screens examples. You just went for like a really nice modern, I'm not saying that these are the best screens ever designed, but it was an improvement on what we had. Just interestingly, the other thing, I'm very much a minimalist in my real life, and I tried to go for this here as well. Wherever I could package functionality together, I did. And so here we used to have a member kiosk, and we used to have a general visitor kiosk before. Bring those two together. So what this does is, if you probably can't see it from the back, but you have this scanning here. So here I can enter my member number, or I can scan my member card. And if I do either of those things, it will give me member pricing. And so by doing that, I managed to keep the same logic in one piece of code rather than have two things. The fewer things I have to maintain, the better I am. A couple of examples on the web. Again, this is all one responsive set of code, so you can see how it looks completely different in different channels. Mobile was big as well, and I'll talk a little bit about mobile sales in a second. And then the other one, of course, is the app. This came a little bit later. This is our Explorer app. What we did from a technical point of view is we just repackaged web code within the app. So it looks like it's native to the app, it's actually not. But from a visitor experience, it's fine. It's the same thing. This was really, really important to me. Ticket delivery. There's no point buying, and we used to do this. We used to sell tickets online, but then you had to wait in line to pick them up. And we didn't, that's why you did that for years. And I coming back to my e-commerce background, I was like, if you buy online, if you're the sort of person who wants to buy online, you're also the sort of person who wants to have it available to you digitally. It's not for everybody. I also don't believe that everybody should be in one way or another. We used to have one way, which was stand in line, and now we have multiple ways. So I also did this whole multi-channel pick up, and there's a million different ways you can get a ticket at our museum. So one is the traditional way. Even if you buy online, if you stand in line, you'll get your ticket. We also did print at home. Everyone who buys online gets an email. You can choose to print it. You can choose to display it on mobile web. You can include it in mobile web is your ability to actually be able to log in and access your tickets again. I think that's the middle one. We did Passbook, Apple Passbook, now called Wallet. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with that, the fantastic thing about that is it's on your lock screen. It's geofenced so that as you approach the museum or as your ticket time approaches, it shows up on your lock screen. You don't have to go hunting for it. And that's one of the pain points that I was trying to remove. And then, of course, we have it on an Explorer, which is our app. So I think this is a really important point, this idea of not constraining to any single channel. And then because it's on Passbook, it's on the watch. Yeah. And we didn't have to build a native watch app to do that. It just comes with, and I think this is something about technology, and when we talk about this idea of buy versus build or should we wait, sometimes the technology, by waiting, we can leverage things without additional cost for ourselves. And I think that's sometimes really good. People wanted us to build an Apple Watch app, but I didn't want to build an Apple Watch app. I wanted to use the native iOS functionality.
Are you scanning those advanced scans?
Yes. Now, I don't know how many people are actually showing up with an Apple Watch yet, but, the point is that the capability is there. Yeah. And then we introduced this idea of a living ticket. So and I alluded to this morning, this idea of, I have a lot more coffee in me now than I had this morning, so I feel a lot more awake with it. I was feeling like I hadn't slept enough. Anyway, it's 1.5 million. It's a lot of walking, and you've got kids, and you've got 30,000 people in there on one day by themselves, at one time. It's a challenging experience. So if you wanted to go and see the Crocs, if you're walking along and you saw the Crocs and you didn't know this, and this was actually inspired to me by my father who visited. My father is nearly 80 years of age, and he came to visit me in New York, the one and only time he said he will ever go to New York, and it wasn't his cup of tea. So as I go, I think we said we'd have between 1 and 6 exhibitions. If I want to add an exhibition, I can. If I have a 2:30 appointment and I want to make it 3:30, I can. I think I have one slide on this topic. If I just want to buy more tickets, I can do that as well, obviously, all of those things. And then also we have at the end the ability to change your ticket into a membership. And so if you decide at the end of the visit you want to become a member, then we allow you that ability for like a couple of weeks afterwards to get credit for those kind of dollars. So we did all that. That was really important to our director, and I think it was really this idea of trying to take the pain points of the experience, and if you can try and take the magnitude of the building into consideration, like that's a real, it's an exhausting experience to do that much in one day.
That was not based on flying.
That was not based on flying. The tickets were based on flying. I fly United Airlines. I'm sure every other airline does this as well. But, I can get my ticket on my watch, on my phone, print it out, go see somebody, see it at Kiosk, etc. I was like, a million ways to Sunday. Yes, hurry up, Catherine. Very quickly, membership. I think some of us talked about this. We did Passbook on membership. And the idea was that you can get to your member card anywhere you are. Now, we also have time ticketing on membership. You get certain entitlements, but for general admission as a member, you can walk in now with your phone, so we had this idea of an e-member card. So you no longer have to, members used to have to stand at the desk and get a paper ticket to go in, even though it was no cost. So now we offer the ability to just scan and go straight in, so they can skip that whole line process as well, and they love that. Apple Watch, therefore, we do purchases of memberships as well. I talked about this one. Skip over donations and events. We have donations. We can donate in any channel, as I mentioned, except the app. That'll come, I'm sure. The events. We have 250 public programs that we run a year on average. These are big events. They could be Neil Tyson, or they could be what we call a Sci Cafe, which is a discussion by a scientist about something like Zika virus, and accompanied by a cocktail event. So it's always well attended. So we offer all of these abilities, and again, the same thing. If you want member pricing, you authenticate with your membership card in all of its various different forms, which is basically a barcode, and you get member pricing. And finally, and this was big for us, is school groups. I think I heard Leo say the same thing. We have 500,000 school children come a year, and to book a school group, you need to call our call center, and that's fine. And then there are a million options that you have to choose. Please don't tweet that. There's a number of capacity. Which hall did you want to visit? Which one are you studying? Because we can't have all of the kids in one hall, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of choices. And then are you in New York City or not in New York City? So I won't go through 10 options at least. That's the reason why it was a call. Now, teachers have to teach during the day. The call center closes at 5 p.m. This doesn't work. And so we build the ability to do online school group bookings, and that's That was something that was built. It was incredibly difficult. It's up there with kiosks, and I would never do it again. I think that will make a huge difference. And
When did it go up?
like maybe 2 months ago.
Is that tested for
Hmm?
you? Is it integrated with this?
Yeah, it is. It's the same as buying a ticket. You have to be authenticated and marked as a teacher in the CRM system to be able to buy it, and it's affiliated with a certain school and the whole kit and caboodle. That's why these things are never easy. A simplified architecture. Remember I said a single responsive set of code? This was really important to me because if you don't do that, you end up with 5, or 4 in this case, 4 distinct sets of codes, and then how do you keep all the business rules? You know, there's probably a layer for business rules that should exist outside of the application anyway, but how do you keep all those business rules in sync, and, you know, you end up with a really, really challenging type of thing. So this was really important. As you can see, each channel is fundamentally different. And then we have integrated in with our Testatura, which is our ticketing CRM platform in one, and our content management system to drive content and images and things for exhibitions. And that might be, that's it, yeah. Thank you.
Functionality then the same across?
It's not, it's close.
Okay.
There is a common set of functionality that's the same.
Right, and then you drop or add things. depending
Yeah, and then the kiosk, in particular the kiosk, has additional things because how you interact with a kiosk is completely different to how you interact with, you know, so you need to like, you know, have the idea of credit card swipe and like how does it know how to deal with that. When it comes to the app, I actually with the app wanted to go for simple, at least for the first instantiation of this. So let's sell the 80% business case, which is 80% business case, 80% case, which is general admission tickets. And we also sell a timed entry special exhibition tickets, but I don't do donations and events and school groups and memberships or anything through there yet, but we may in due course.
So you think that kiosks will go away?
Yes, I do. I do.
Tomorrow?
I think that they are not yet, but maybe in the next 5 years, I think they go away, right? People go to the, you know, it's interesting. We see people come in on the lines, and then the line gets to a certain point, and they peel off to the kiosks, right? But even and then kiosks, depending on how busy we are that day, kiosks become a bottleneck as well because people are lined up for the kiosks, which seems strange. It's like because if you're more inclined to a kiosk, you can be inclined to mobile. But anyway, that was you know, people you know, under the right circumstances, people do want to buy mobile tickets. But I think the important thing is you don't have to convert everybody, right? Everybody will want to do it their way, and you have to meet a number of audiences, not just one. Yeah, we've definitely seen, I'm nowhere near where Leo is, but we've definitely seen an uptick in mobile sales since then. And I still think we could do a much better job of it in terms of streamlining the experience and things. I would love to do things like Apple Pay. I think you have to get rid of the checkout process, Apple Pay, Android Pay, those kinds of things.
I know there are a lot of options with the tickets, so with the kiosk, do you feel like that people who don't know what they want to do, it helps them enough, or are those people still going to the actual live person?
I think it helps them. We've got like these big images and things like that. And I think you also feel, and maybe I'm just projecting myself onto this, I think you feel under less pressure. You know, because if someone's saying to you, you have to decide all these things, but you've got no context, or alternatively, you have a big image in front of you with times, you feel, you know, you feel maybe less pressured because you've got more information and more context. I would love to, at some point, get to the idea of like coming up with this idea of just randomly giving people times. So, you know, if they're here at 12 o'clock, we could probably guess when they want to see certain things and take some of the decisions away in the interest of getting rid of pain points, and then and then allow them the ability to change those decisions. So that's something else I've thought about.
And have you done any visitor interviews or observations while they're down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's an overwhelming, I think what we keep finding continuously is an overwhelming experience. And for those of us who sat in who went today to pick up our tickets, we rarely do that, and that was a really good experience for us as well, at least for me anyway, because you kind of put yourself